Hello everyone, welcome to the Cyberpunk anniversary stream. My name is Amelia, and with me I have Patrick Mills, our French lies and lore designer. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yes, I'm super excited to have you actually here with me, so you know we can actually have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
Just a word of disclaimer: we are not actually announcing any news about the DLC, expansion, patch, anything like that. So, you know, please don't flood the Twitch chat with questions about that. However, we will have some cool, interesting things to talk about. And as always, we're waiting for your questions in a Twitch chat. So please send them, and we have team ready to send them over to us for Patrick to answer for you. And I guess we can just start, right?
You actually can send all the questions about the expansions and stuff, but the answer is we're not talking about it. So we saved you the trouble.
Yes. Okay. So the first question: what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Red?
Yes. My answer here, I was thinking about this. Spoilers. I saw some of these questions in advance. I was thinking about this, and I have a little bit of an obsequious answer, but it's also true. And that is what I think about when I think about CD Projekt Red is artistry and ambition, because I think that we always want to make
Jefferson?
games that have some amount of artistic integrity to them, that are also, you know, badass and cool and, you know, doing something neat. But then there's this other factor of ambition. When I first got here and first started working on Cyberpunk, way back 10 years ago, when I first started working on it, I thought, you know, this is amazing. We're working on a project here that is actually impossible to make. There's no way to actually make the thing that we're doing. And spoilers, we didn't make that game. We actually wound up making a different game than that, but it was exciting. It was very exciting, and it really felt like being part of something that I wouldn't see at a lot of other studios, especially at, you know, big corporate studios. You don't see that level of ambition all the way up. You have lots of ambitious developers, you have lots of ambitious ideas, but I think the corporate structure of some of those other studios, and not to say anything bad about them, but the structure of those studios tamps down on some of that ambition because of realities, you know, and I've always been impressed with CD Projekt's willingness to try to make something new, and that's why I'm still here. So.
Well, I'm glad you're still here. We're having so much fun with you know, working together about like some cool stuff behind the door.
We are working on some cool stuff that we will not be talking about.
Yes, soon.
Yes.
Okay, so you know, you're talking about ambitious and all that, but you know, it also comes with challenges, right? Was it super challenging to start your life here in Poland?
Yes, it was. I had actually, I mean, like honestly, I had never really left the country before. I'm from the US, if you couldn't tell. And I had never really left the United States before. I'd been to Canada, I'd been to Mexico, but not for very long, you know, just for short vacations and things like that. I had never been to Europe. I had definitely never been to Poland. Actually, when I first accepted the offer here, I had still never even heard the Polish language. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna learn Polish. Of course, no problem. And I installed Witcher 2 with the Polish language pack because I wanted to know, like, okay, so let me hear like what Polish sounds like. I installed it, I loaded up Witcher 2, and right at the very beginning, and I thought, holy fucking shit, what have I gotten myself into? Oh my God, I've made a terrible mistake. Though to be honest, the other job that I was looking at the time was in Reykjavik, so I don't know if that would have been much better. I don't speak Polish still. I know a little bit.
You know a little bit.
I know a little bit. You and Alicia were talking the other day in Polish, and I knew what you were talking about.
Exactly.
I couldn't have participated in the conversation, but I knew you were talking about coffee. Like, yes. I knew that you were talking about coffee, and yeah, so I do know a little bit.
I'm pretty sure I heard you saying cześć.
I say cześć. I know the basics. I know the basics. But please do not try to have a conversation with me. It's not going to go very well. Przepraszam, nie mówię po polsku.
No, perfect.
See, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm told that I say it well enough that people actually don't believe me sometimes, so I try to put a little bit more American accent on it. Przepraszam, nie mówię po polsku.
I see some, we already have some questions, so let's maybe answer one of the first ones. From Hamler Drick, who did all the research for the song title Mission Names?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm happy to answer that. It was mostly, it was a combination, well, I'll tell you what the process was. The process for that was, I had actually made some quests with song titles like that were the inspiration for those quests, and I thought that that would be really good. And there were some other quest designers that did similar things as well, and I thought that that would be a really good way of handling all of the quests because of the idea of Cyberpunk having this musical quality to it. You've got Johnny Silverhand in your head, you've got punk in the name, which refers to more than just music, but it's related to music. And I thought that would be really cool. So we got suggestions from all the quest designers about what they thought would work. We took that list, myself and the English adaptation localization team went through the list, and over a period of months went through and picked titles that we thought worked. We had certain criteria. The first criteria was that the title itself was appropriate to the quest. Secondly, it should be a song that Johnny Silverhand would like or at least appreciate. And that also brought along with it the third qualification, which was that it be sort of era appropriate to Johnny Silverhand and like the alternate universe of Cyberpunk. So we tried to limit it. We tried, when possible, to select songs that come from earlier than 1988. Didn't stick to that all the time because it was too much trouble, and there are some titles that work too well. Pyramid Song, for example, not 1988, but perfect quest title. So yeah, and yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was really good.
I mean, the quest we are playing right now, actually Sebastian behind the screen is playing Dream On.
Dream On.
If I remember correctly, by Aerosmith.
The only Aerosmith song I actually like. Apologies to any Aerosmith fans. They're a great band, just not my thing. But I really like the song Dream On. It's a really good one. Not actually the song title that inspired this quest. I brought that in later. The song was not a song title, it was an album title. Blonde Redhead's Fake Can Be Just As Good was the inspiration for this quest, but I couldn't use that title because it was an album title, not a song title.
Yeah. While we're on the Cyberpunk topic, how excited you were that our company will be working on Cyberpunk games?
Extremely excited. Real talk. I was quite unemployed at the time, and I was trying to get back into the gaming industry after having left for several years to go get my degree. I was looking for places to apply to, and I saw that Bullets trailer, and I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. It's Cyberpunk 2020, which is a franchise that I knew from growing up. I have very fond memories of playing 2020. And then I saw this trailer and I thought, oh shit, like I'm applying there. And isn't this the studio that made The Witcher? Which I liked Witcher 2 a lot. I'm sorry, the tone in my voice betrays that I had complicated feelings about Witcher 2. I really like Witcher 2. Actually, the first time I knew about CD Projekt Red, I was working at Obsidian Entertainment, and we were working on Neverwinter Nights 2 on the Aurora engine, and Witcher 1 was coming out on the Aurora engine, and I remember seeing the demo at E3, and we were struggling with the Aurora engine. We would sorry, Fergus, I'm going to talk a little bit about Neverwinter Nights 2. I don't think he's watching, we saw that, and I remember people around the office being like, that's all fake, that's all bullshit, that's completely fake, that's nonsense. And then the game came out. Actually, it wasn't fake, it was real. Like, they actually did manage to do some really interesting stuff with the Aurora engine, which I don't know how it was possible, but I'm also not a programmer, so.
I just call it death magic.
It's
like
death
for me,
magic,
it's all
for
death
sure.
magic.
Yeah, it definitely was. We actually got, because we were working, because it was published in the US by Atari, which Neverwinter Nights was also being published, so we got free copies of Witcher 1. I don't know that I would have played Witcher 1 if they hadn't given me a free copy, but I really enjoyed it. But it was Atari. Sorry, Atari. I don't think any of those people are still around. But they mixed it up. They sent us the boxes for one of their Chinese studios, and they sent our box to one of their Chinese studios. So my copy of Witcher 1 actually has a little case that's all Chinese characters on it. It's cool though. It's neat. It's a cool
original
logo.
And,
it's original.
unique.
Yeah, it's original and unique, unless you're in China, in which case it's pretty ordinary.
Okay, so circle back to 2020. You are a link between company and Mike Pondsmith.
Yes.
How it is to work with such a legend.
It is great working with Mike Pondsmith. It's fantastic. I really like it. He's a really cool guy, and I feel like we've established a rapport and a bond over the years of working, and I'm just really happy to be able to work with him. During development, we would bring him out every once in a while to talk about things, to show him what we are working on, to get his advice and his feedback on things. Now it's mostly him and I having meetings every month or every other month and talking about the development of his project, Cyberpunk Red, which you should get and you should play. It's a cool game, and it's sort of a prequel to Cyberpunk 2077 and a sequel to 2020. If you don't know about it, you can go get it at rpgdrivethrough.com. You can get the PDF version, and I'm just going to do a little bit of shilling for him. And we talk, and it's like meeting the old man on the mountain. You get to go and talk to the fountain where all of these ideas came from, and find out what books he was reading and what his influences were, and how he thinks that the franchise should be developed. And we share our ideas about things, and it's really great. And I think that we have a certain amount of mind meld going on, so it's cool. It's cool.
So
yeah, I actually have a meeting with him tomorrow. And I'm excited for it. Yeah.
Make him to rewatch the stream.
I will.
Tomorrow.
I will. He would love that I shilled for Cyberpunk Red. He would love that.
So actually, one of the questions I have about Mike Pondsmith, lore and stuff. So, for example, when you're working on a quest, or were you working on a quest, right? And the whole lore adaptation and whatnot. Were there moments that he was like, no, don't do it, I don't like it, or maybe he was like, yes, this is something I really enjoy and would like to see?
I have a funny story about that. I have a funny story about that. So we were keeping Keanu Reeves as a super top secret. We did not want that to leak. So even Mike didn't know about it. And Mike had come to visit the studio, and we were showing him everything that was going on.
I remember.
And he still didn't know about it. We were taking him, meeting to meeting, every department showing, but he still hadn't seen the mock-ups of Johnny Silverhand. And to sort of keep that under wraps, even a lot of the concept art of him was using placeholder faces and things like that. I love this bit in the quest. It's good stuff. I love it. It's a cool commercial. Anyway. So we're taking him room to room, and then right before he goes to the art meeting where he's going to be shown the real pictures of Johnny Silverhand, the real images of what we want him to look like, Mike says, and I'm going to do a little bit of a Mike impression here, which I don't know, maybe won't go over well, but just whatever you do, don't make him brunette. He's blonde. I know you might want to change it for an actor or something like it, but there's no actor that's worth changing his hair color. And I'm like, oh shit. And so he goes and he leaves the room, and a little time goes by, and he comes back and he sits down and he says, well, okay, I don't like it, but if you can get Keanu, you should get Keanu, so it's okay.
I remember those meetings because
you were there.
I was actually the guide for him to get him for every single meeting to not be late, and
course, yeah.
together with Cody and with Lisa, right? I remember his impression when he actually notices Keanu, and he was like, "Who?"
Yeah. Suddenly he changed his mind, but he's right. If you can get Keanu, you get Keanu. So.
Yeah, so actually, this is actually connected to our next question. So I'm gonna connect it to the community question. Is there any favorite or challenge stuff that you did for Cyberpunk 2077?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Is there any favorite or challenge stuff that you did in Cyberpunk 2077?
Well, my favorite stuff in Cyberpunk 2077 that I worked on is the stuff you're seeing right now, this quest. I'm extremely proud of this quest, except you just saw very briefly. Oh, no, this is fixed now, never mind. This was bugged last time I played it, but it's been fixed. It's been fixed. Patches are great. We love patches. Yeah, I love this quest. I'm extremely proud of this quest. And we can talk about it more if you want later, but
we can actually talk about it now. Is there any specific reason why we picked this quest?
We picked this quest because this might, I'm not a quest designer anymore, this might actually be the best quest I ever do. I really liked making this quest. Of course, now when I'm watching it, I'm seeing only things that I would change. Those decals are the same in room to room, and they should be different decals. But in any case, you know, whatever, that's just, you know, designer vision. I really appreciate, I really liked this quest because I had a vision for a quest. I had an image in my head. I had an idea for a scene, for a conundrum, and I feel like this quest is exactly what I set out to make. And that's very often not the case. Very often you set out to make a story, you create the story, and then you find a lot of problems. And this one, I feel like the final version that you're seeing is very close to what I had originally envisioned for this quest. As I said earlier, the inspiration from this quest comes from a Blonde Redhead album title, Fake Can Be Just As Good, and I wanted to create a situation in a game, I wanted to create a story where some people are confronted by the fact that the lives that they are living are somehow a lie, and then they have to choose, or the player has to choose, whether or not to continue living in that lie or not. And it evolved from there. You know, it grew. For me, that's how I tend to make quests and how I design a story. Is you come up with an image or a feeling or a scene or a conflict, and you just sit on that and see where it takes you. This quest had a lot of challenges, and for most of the time that I was developing this quest, I had no idea whether or not it was actually going to work or not. The main problems are that, one, it's a mystery, and when you're doing a mystery, you never know, because I already know the mystery, I already know what happens. So it's not surprising to me. Are you going to surprise players? Like, is the twist at the end going to surprise them, or are they going to see it coming? Or do you get to the twist at the end and they have no idea what just happened, and so the twist doesn't land? And you know, and you can only get somebody's first impression once. So you get somebody to play the quest at whatever state it's at, and they tell you what it, you know, how it made them feel. They tell you how they liked it. Did the mystery work for them? Were they surprised? And then they tell you, and some of them say yes, and some of them say no. And it's a very personal thing, so you never know. Like, is it just that person that didn't get it, or is it the quest that's a problem? Or, you know, did it just work for this person because they brought something to it themselves that let it work for them, but for the majority of people, it's not going to work. So that was always something that worried me a lot, but I've seen that people really like this quest, and it's been very satisfying, vindicating to hear people say that this is their favorite quest. And you know, sometimes my favorite quest in Cyberpunk 2077, but I've heard people say it's my favorite quest in any game ever, and that just makes my fuck with my mic, but it, you know, makes my heart swell in the good way, not the bad way that requires medical intervention. Yeah, so Yeah, I love it. This is a great quest. This is a great quest. I think so. People seem to think so.
Yeah, for me it was like definitely one of the what the hell is happening quests. And we have a lot of those in our game, but this was like definitely the biggest WTF I had in this game so far.
One of the other big challenges for this quest that even I'm still not quite sure, because sometimes I see people post things and talk about the quest, is making making sure that Elizabeth did not come off as a villain. Sometimes when working on this quest, there would be feedback from people saying, you need to do this, you need to have Elizabeth do this, you need to have this happen when you're talking to Elizabeth or whatever. And the problem with a lot of those ideas is that they invariably lead you to the conclusion that Elizabeth is in on the conspiracy, that she is not a victim of the conspiracy herself, but she is actually part of it. And what I would want to happen is what I want you to come away with from the conversation with Elizabeth in the ramen shop is I want you to come away with a question of where the line between victim and accomplice is, right? Like, where is that? She is an accomplice to the conspiracy, but she's also a victim of the conspiracy, and that was a big challenge as well. And I think that it works, but really that's up to them to say whether or not it works or not. So I think it does.
Yeah, we have a small community, maybe not that small, but actually we have a community that thinks that this is one of the best quests in the game. And did you ever think that your work will be seen that way?
No, I mean, like as I said, I had no idea that this quest was going to work at all. There's a lot of second guessing goes into making stuff like this, and like one of my other quests, I fought the law. I had a lot more confidence that quest was just going to work. Like that quest was just going to work. I tried to leave enough stuff ambiguous that people couldn't necessarily draw all the conclusions, and I don't know if I was successful at that, but I think that even if you don't necessarily draw all the conclusions that I wanted people to, the quest itself works, and it's a pretty straightforward story that people can just get, right? There's not a lot there that I'm worried that people are going to miss or that people are going to not catch. But with Dream On, there was a big concern. I didn't know.
Well, it worked well.
Great.
So far, so hopefully, we'll keep that community on their toes.
Fantastic. You're making me regret now not being a quest designer anymore. Oh.
Yeah, speaking of your role, right? You're a French franchise and lore designer right now.
Yes.
How did you actually decide to change from quest designer to this? Why?
Well, one of the downsides of being a quest designer, at least for me, is I'm frustrated all the time and angry all the time, and I was tired of living that way. It's not a great way to live, especially after the pandemic started, and we started doing home office. When you're at work and somebody annoys you, you keep it to yourself. You don't put that around because you're not going to be that. You don't want to be that guy. You want to be good to work with, so you keep it to yourself, even if you're just incredibly pissed off. After we went to home office and nobody could hear me complaining except my wife, I began to let that stuff out. I'd become very frustrated. Something was changing. Again, it's changing. Why is it changing? It doesn't need to change. It's good the way that it is. Or, there's a new thing to do. Or somebody didn't finish the thing that they needed to finish. And just getting angry and actually letting that shit out. I didn't like being that way. And even if we had been back in the office, having to bottle that stuff up is also really awful. And so I really wanted to change. And one of the things that I did on Cyberpunk 2077 was, in addition to making quests, I was kind of the lore guy, right? I was the guy who knew 2020, who talked to Mike Pondsmith, but I never did it full time. I never had the title. I never did it full time. It was a side gig, and it was actually a full-time job. And I was having to split my time between Quest and between this, which is one of the reasons why I was always frustrated, because I never had enough time to do either job properly. So when it came down to it, and the position, I made the position, and now I get to do that full time, and it's good. It's good. I'm not pissed off all the time, and it just makes me feel good. And I think that it's a job that's been needed for a while. So.
Yeah, I always remember when I needed something from someone about the lore, if I should say it this way, maybe this way, or maybe I'm totally bullshitting everything. I always were going to you and Pavel Sasko. So you guys were my two favorite heroes, and not all heroes wear capes,
That's
but
us. Yeah.
you guys were always there for. So I agree that role was needed, and I'm glad that you're this guy. Well, and
thank you for coming to me. So.
We actually have a question sort of connected to this from Luke Skywalker.
Oh, Luke Skywalker!
We have Star Wars fan here. How did you approach changes in Night City as a setting which had to be made due to the time jumps in the world, especially from 2020 and Red to 7?
Sorry, can I read it? Sure. Yeah. Okay. You approach the changes in Night City as a well, Mike did a lot of the work for us by blowing up Night City at the end of Cyberpunk 2020. Like, he blew it up, so we didn't have to stick to those maps, but we never really intended to stick to those maps exactly anyway, because of course there's a change in medium, and a change in medium necessitates making a city that's fun to run around in 3D, right? You can't just take the stuff that's from the Night City source book and put it in, because it was a different kind of thing, right? For that you need a TTRPG, you need a clean map that you can look at, and you can find where everything is on the map, you can show it to players and they can immediately grasp what's going on, whereas in video game Night City, you really want to drown people in the city. You want to grab people and put them and make them feel like they're like it's really crushing them, that they're just inside that place. And really, so that's what it came down to. Is he blew it up, but then we collaborated with Mike and his team to make sure that their version of the city from Cyberpunk Red, which is it takes place in 2045. Is connected to the old Cyberpunk 2020 map, and then that bridges the gap to the Cyberpunk 2077 map, and that was a really fun process as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can actually move forward to another quest. It's more about your life path with as a quest designer.
Yes.
If I want to become a quest designer, is it a good idea to become beginner at C++ before learning and doing portfolio with Unreal Engine and Unity?
I can't code for shit, and most of our quest designers can't code for shit. We have programmers for that. That said, don't take any career advice from me. And the reason I say that is because I got into this industry a long time ago. When I got into this industry, it was a different industry. I had a lot of advantages. The industry at that era afforded me a lot of advantages. I can script in C a little bit, and that is where I kind of got my start in Quest. And the other problem here is that quest designer means different things at different studios. It also means different things in different eras, right? Like, what a quest designer is now might not be what a quest designer is in 10 years. And what a quest designer does at CDP might not be the same thing that a quest designer does at, like, Ubisoft. I don't know. And the requirements, some places may require you to script, I don't know any that require you to code. Like, that's not really a thing in my experience. What's important for any game developer working in any field is to know how these things work. You need to at least understand what programming is and how it works so that you can know what's possible and what's not, and how expensive certain things will be. Like, how long will it take someone to make that thing that you need them to make? Even if you don't know how to program, you need to know how to ask a programmer to do that thing, and you need to understand when they tell you, no, that's going to take me 6 months and I don't have that time. How can I do this more cheaply so that you can work with them to do that? So it's important to know those things, and I think especially for quest design, which exists at a nexus of all these different departments. The Quest is really where the rubber meets the road. It's about the player experience. It's about what the player is what's happening for the player at any given moment, and making sure that you can put all the different parts together from the art team, from programming. You need to know how to use those tools. You need to know how to put all these things together and craft that player experience. That requires you to understand the basics of all those other fields. I don't think that like having a CS degree or anything like that is something that's really necessary for a Quest designer. I don't think any of our Quest designers have CS degrees. Many of them, like I said, many of them can script. I don't think any of them can actually code. But that's not career advice. Don't take any career advice from me. I don't have any for you.
How about modding? Maybe modding can help.
Modding is great. Modding is how I learned all of those things that I was just talking about, because I got to do a little bit of all of those things. I was modding in the 90s, kids. I was modding in the 90s. It's a far, far gone era. And I got to do a little bit of all of those things. A little bit of code, a little bit of art. My art was terrible. Please don't go look at it. I got to do some sound design, some UI stuff, and all of that lets you learn how a game is made, and that's the most important thing, is to know how games are made, which can be very difficult because it's a very opaque industry. Sorry about that. Not my call.
Okay, so we can go for one more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll go through quite a lot of those questions, so don't worry. This is still my favorite game in the Cyberpunk genre, and I still love this game. What advice would you give to someone who has been through the game a couple of times and wants to play again?
Play it again. If you're on PC, I would check out mods. Because those can really change the game up. I still have Skyrim installed on my computer, and every year I go back and I install hundreds and hundreds of mods. It takes me 2 weeks before the game is actually running and actually up and all the mods are installed, and then I never actually play the game. But it's fun to see what people are working on. So yeah, that would be my experience. If you're on PC, play mods, install mods, mess around with mods, maybe make your own mod. Change the game to be the way that you want it to be. Maybe you don't like how the itemization works, so change the itemization. You'll learn something. It can be fun. If you're on console, I would just suggest trying it with a different build, try it with a different path, make the opposite decision on all the quests. But I imagine you already know that, so I don't know why you need to ask me.
Speaking about paths, your V, what's the life path?
Nomad, absolutely. You get a car at the beginning, you get to drive through the desert. I love meeting Jackie. I love that jackass sheriff. He's a prick. I love the scene at the border crossing. I love all of it. I love the Nomad stuff. And I've moved around a lot throughout my life, and I've always kind of felt a kindred to the Nomads in some way. Though now, of course, I work in the marketing department, so I'm actually corpo. I'm straight up corpo now. I changed my class. But yeah, Nomad for sure, my favorite.
Okay, so we have nomads, we have the desert, we have all that stuff. Mm-hmm. What else is there for you that you consider super cool and fun in Night City and in Cyberpunk in general?
I honestly, my favorite thing to do in Night City is to pretty much ignore everything that's there and just drive around and listen to the radio and look at the city. I think Night City is a really unique place. It's a really cool place. I think the environment art team did a just legendary, world-class job making that city. I think even most of the critics of Cyberpunk, and there are a lot of them, would agree that it's a really landmark achievement making that city. And I like feeling there. There's a kind of comfort to Night City that's hard for me to describe. It's hard for me to explain, but I have memories of being a child and being in the back seat of the car, half asleep, listening to the radio and driving through cities that I didn't know, and being on the highways and driving through the cities and, driving between the cities and that there's a very comforting quality to that. I don't think that's all there is going on there, but that's definitely something, there's a certain element of nostalgia to it. And I think, sort of making Night City and the art styles of Night City evoke a different era is part of that, is part of that way of making sure that, that you get that kind of quality across, that there's this sort of ineffable nostalgia to it, this comforting quality. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it exactly.
If I would be a better driver, I'd probably do the same, but I'm horrible.
I've seen you drive in Night City, so.
Only on the bike.
Only on the bike, yeah.
So you like to drive around. Do you have your favorite spot?
My favorite spot? There's a park in Charter Hill that I really like. And I think it's near, I love those little glass cubes that you can go in and you hear the bird song piped in. That's just a great touch. I love that. All the birds in Night City are dead, but you can go into these little like nature pods and listen to bird song. I always thought that was a brilliant touch. Whoever did that, great job. I really like Pacifica. There's a great vibe to Pacifica. It feels really cool. You get attacked all the time, but
brutal city.
Yeah, it is a brutal city. And then
I thought I was going insane.
yeah, okay, sure. Reconciliation Park. I love Reconciliation Park. The end of Dream On originally took place in Reconciliation Park. But there was too much other stuff going on there, so I had to move it. So I moved it to a location near Reconciliation Park that actually, in the end, worked out better. But yeah. So those would be my tops. Those would be my top picks.
So we have the favorite place. What about the most hated one? And what do you actually dislike about Cyberpunk?
What do I dislike about Cyberpunk? I don't want to do that on the camera.
Okay.
I don't want to do that on camera. I'm not going to talk bad about anything that anybody I know worked on. But my least favorite place in Night City is Northside Industrial District. I fucking hate that place. It's covered in maelstrom. It's ugly. And I don't mean to say that the artists did a bad job. I mean, it's aesthetically I don't like it. It's unpleasant. It's a gross part of the town. So yeah. Yeah, that would be my pick. The oil fields are disgusting too. They're just nasty, nasty stuff.
Okay.
But I used to live in Texas, and they remind me a little bit of Texas. Sorry, Texans. Okay, so I've lived in Texas before. I have family in Texas. I am not from Texas, make no mistake. But I have a lot of family in Texas, and when you're visiting people, especially out in the country, very often there are oil derricks. People have oil derricks on their land. Some oil company comes and says, "We're going to put an oil derrick on your land. We'll pay you to put this oil derrick on your land." And then very often they're just filthy. And there will be pits full of just oil laying out there, and it's nasty. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't happen these days now that they got fracking. Maybe it just goes into the atmosphere. I don't know. But yeah. It's gross. Stop with the fucking fossil fuels already. Do you know how hot? You've seen me doing this. It is hot as hell in here. It is extremely hot right now. Fucking stop with the fossil fuels. Call your elected representatives. Do something. Holy shit. We're gonna fucking boil in our skins. Sorry, that's pretty grim. We are gonna live in Night City sometime soon, I guess. Yeah, we are. Yeah. Let's change the subject.
Let's change the subject. Yes. I actually have a question from Camille Cesaro. I actually remember you from all our streams, so glad to see your question.
I just want to say, this outfit is great. I love this.
So stylish.
I have glasses just like that. I
know.
I have them right over there, but I'm not going to get them. I'd have to get off, go over there and come back.
Speaking of glasses, Mike Pondsmith glasses are just amazing.
They're fantastic. He gave me a pair.
So lucky.
Yeah, E3 2018. He actually went down to Venice Beach to one of those sunglass huts and just bought all the mirror shades that he could find in a box and brought them back to the booth and was passing them out to people. And it was great. It was awesome. He's a cool dude. I really like him.
He's
such such a sweetheart too. Just really nice guy.
If I die,
Uh-huh.
please tell him to narrate my life.
Awesome.
Okay.
We'll do it. We'll do it. He does have a beautiful voice. My impression, if you've never heard Mike Pondsmith, if you've never heard him, my impression doesn't even begin to do him justice. It's a parody. He has a beautiful voice. You can hear him actually on Moro Rock Radio in the city.
Yes.
He does all of the spoken segments.
But yeah, coming back to the question,
Yes.
what was the hardest aspect in creating Cyberpunk 2077 from your point of view?
The hardest aspect of creating Cyberpunk 2077, the very hardest aspect. Well, without going into too many details that I shouldn't talk about on a live stream, I will say that one of the things that was a shock coming from Blood and Wine, which was a dream project in a lot of ways. Like absolutely, like making Blood and Wine was some of the best times I've ever had professionally. It was a dream. We had tools that just worked, just worked. They were easy to use. They were incredibly powerful. And we knew what we were doing. We knew how to make those quests because we had made Witcher 3 and we knew how to make all of those things. We knew how to do everything. And so a lot of it was just, it wasn't, I don't want to say it was easy because it's never easy, but it worked. Everything worked. And then Cyberpunk, it wasn't like that.
Smooth.
Yeah, that's what I'll say. It wasn't like that. And you know, one of the things I always, if I can pick one specific thing that's a difference between making stuff for Witcher 3 and making stuff for Cyberpunk, and it's something that gets my goat a little bit. I see people online who have no idea what they're talking about, no clue, don't know anything about making games, which again, it's an opaque industry, I don't blame them for it, saying, oh, they made it in first person because it's easier than doing it in third person and they wouldn't have to animate it, and that is so much bullshit. It's so much bullshit, holy shit. Making stuff in first person with no cuts, no editing possible is so difficult, so difficult. There are so few cuts in 2077 where you know, if Geralt is talking to somebody, Geralt saying, "Oh, hey, I'm Geralt, and I hunt monsters," and then the other person like, "There's a monster." You can actually cut that scene. You can go to black screen, and despawn that guy when that scene is over, and respawn him across the map. Or you can move Geralt. Geralt goes, I'll go find out about it, and then you just spawn him at the cave that he needs to go to, and he's there, and you don't have to walk to the cave. And things like that. You can just use that black screen to hide so many things. More than you probably even realize is hidden behind those black screens. You can't do that on Cyberpunk 2077. You can't do it. Everything is on screen all the time. The player can look at whatever's doing. You can't use any of those tricks. So you have to make sure that when, for example, you are talking to River in the diner, you've just met River, and his detective friend gets up and walks away. You have to make sure that that guy gets up out of his chair, walks out of the diner, gets into his car, the car gets out of the driveway, which is hard to do actually, gets the AI to drive out of the driveway, drive onto the road, drive to a safe location that's far enough away that you're not going to see him despawn. And that takes a huge amount of time. It takes a huge amount of time, a huge amount of effort, and there's so many different parts of that can break. The environment changes. Now he can't make it out of the diner. What happens if the player parks their car in between where Detective Han needs to walk to get to his car? What happens if the player does that? Well, okay, now you need to move the player's car. What happens if the AI is changed, right? The AI changes, and so now you painstakingly got it so that Harold could drive his car out of that driveway, and then the AI changes, and now you have to do the whole thing over again. Incredibly time-consuming, incredibly difficult, and that is just like so much effort goes into making it first person, no cuts, no real editing. I mean, honestly, there are a few times in that quest, and I fought the law, where I do actually cut because there wasn't, like, I did not have the time to devote to making sure that River can back his truck out of that place in Cherry Blossom Market. He parks in this little area where I have the whole thing set up. Getting him to back out of there, I didn't really have time to devote to making sure that worked and looked good. So I just cut, but we almost never do that. Yeah, so that was a long answer. It was a long answer.
Well, it was, good answer.
Well, I hope that it was informative.
It was informative.
I hope that it's informative. I hope that it's informative. Like I've said, we have a very opaque industry. We don't talk about these things. And I think that maybe getting some of that information out there, and it's something that I really like about CDP, is that you allow us developers to talk. This is not rehearsed. This isn't pre-recorded. I'm just talking right now. There's no PR person standing over here who's going to, shoot me if I say anything wrong. That's on me, actually.
We'll know later.
Yeah, I'll find out later. And I'll find out later. But yeah, and so I really appreciate that about CDP, that we're allowed to actually talk to people like this. Yeah, it's cool.
I'm really glad we're on the same page with this, because yes, it is sometimes frustrating that you know the answer. Mm-hmm, you would like to I don't know, give some ideas or hints. Like, it's not like that. It's not like I don't know, community managers or marketing person is sitting and coding and fixing bugs in a basement, right? We're actually responsible for something different than our developers. But sometimes it's better, I have to, walk away.
I always get annoyed when I see replies to tweets that are put out, and they're like, "Why aren't you working on the patch?" Well, folks, we are working on these things. We are working on them. She's not working on them. She's doing other things. Leave her alone. Like, come on, grow up. I'm really
working on something else.
You're working on something else. Yeah. You're working on the patch in a different way. You're not working on bug fixes. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
But yeah, coming back to pleasant things. Do you like long games or shorter games? Open worlds and so on?
I used to love 500-hour long RPGs when I was younger. That was the shit for me. Like, that was the best. Like, that was, you only get one game a year, and you want to make that game last. And so I do appreciate those games, and I appreciate that people really like those games. I'm an adult with a full-time job and a lot of responsibilities, and I don't have time for those games anymore. So mostly what I've been into for the past decade or so is story engine games and strategy games. That's the stuff that I really enjoy the most. It's not what I want to make, but it's the stuff that I play the most. And I try to have a varied palette, because it's important to have a varied palette and to see what's going on in different sectors. And see what's going on in different companies. But like, I'm not going to name any names for reasons of professionalism, but I was playing a really cool game about Vikings that came out a few years ago. Really cool game, really enjoyed it. It's I don't know how long it is. It might be a month long. I have no idea. I asked somebody, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm at the part where the king does this, and then they're like, oh yeah, that's about 5% of the way through the game. So I stopped playing. And they've released like 4 expansions for that game since, and I'm glad for whoever is into that they have that game and they have all of that time, but I don't have that time.
I probably shouldn't say about my second career in the game that I've been for 16 years now. It's a lot of time. Games can be time consuming.
Very time consuming. You watch a movie and it's over in 2 hours, 3 at the most. And you play a game and you can be playing it for a year. And I finally beat Disco Elysium, and it's the first game I've actually beaten in ages. By the way, great game. If you haven't played it, you really need to play it. It's fantastic. It's usually when I'm playing an RPG, I'm very critical. I'm very, very critical. I'm playing it and I'm like, I don't like how that goes. It's just how I am. And I played through Disco Elysium with my jaw on the desk. Like, how did they do this? Yeah.
Speaking of long hours in the
Yes.
games,
Oh.
we have a question from VP Valentinos.
Oh, Valentino's, my favorites.
Playing for 600 hours and counting, playing since December 2020. Love this game and a lot, and I used to go by the name Kaldos. But the question for Patrick, any favorite cars and weapons?
Cars and weapons. I really like the Mai, that little beep beep. I love it. I love that when you get in, it says hello, and when you leave, it says goodbye. I think it's super cute. Big fan. As for weapons, I don't know if I could pick one specifically. I like rifles, and I think the SMGs in Cyberpunk are the first time I've ever played a game where I felt like SMGs occupied an actual role. I think that very often happens in games where you have pistols, and then you have rifles, and then SMGs are sort of like somewhere in there. I'm a big fan of the Carnage shotgun. It just sounds great. You hit somebody with it, and they... So yeah.
I really like the very one weapon that we're not gonna talk about
today, but
it's actually amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see what people can actually say after
I'm
some
excited
time.
too. After some time.
But yeah, this is wow. Okay, so speaking of favorites, once
Yes.
again, favorite character from 2077 that isn't your own.
That isn't my own. Okay. All right. Favorite character. I have just a genuine soft spot for Carrie. I love Carrie. Like, I just really, really dig the guy. I want to hang out with Carrie. He seems like a cool guy. So maybe Carrie. But honestly, that's just off the top of my head. If I thought about this longer, I could probably come up with better answers. He only has, oh no, but he's my character. He only,
Difficult question.
Difficult question. Rogue is super cool. I really like, doesn't have a lot of lines, but I really like Wayland. I really like him, he's cool. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. I like all the Aldecaldos, they're fun.
Of course.
They're fun, they're great.
I'm gonna ask you this. Is gonna be probably our last question for today, actually.
Okay.
Because I
That's
can
too
see
bad. I could do this for a while.
next time.
Next time.
Yeah.
I need more
we can
water.
see that Sebastian is already finished with the quest. He's just going.
Oh,
through some
and I
text
missed
from
it. I missed
Panams.
it the whole time. Okay.
But yeah, this was asked a few times in the chat, and I also prepared that question.
Okay.
Panam or Judy?
Oh.
Or maybe other wife or husband.
Okay, so here's how I'm going to answer this. Because everybody always says, who is best for V? Like, everybody's like, oh, who's best for V? I'm going to flip it. Who needs V the most? Who is V the most helpful for, right? Because I think something that's important for all you kids out there, in a relationship, you should always leave the other person in a better place. If that relationship ends, that person should be in a better place than when you met them. And it should be vice versa, right? Like, I think that's the essence of a healthy relationship. And I try to think of, like, who needs V the most? And I think, like, as much as I love Judy, Judy needs V the least. Judy has already buried enough people, and now is going to have to, sorry, spoilers, going to have to bury V, right? And God, and I just think about how hard that'll be for her. I want her to go off to Oregon and hang out with her grandparents, you know, and get a fresh start. And I just think that her winding up with V in the end, it gets sad. Panam really needs a friend. I don't know if she needs a boyfriend that badly, and I don't know if she needs V as her boyfriend specifically. River's gonna be fine. Again, he needs a friend. He needs a friend more than he needs a lover. Carrie, on the other hand, he really needs V. I think Carrie really needs V. And I think Carrie is gonna be the one who is best able to cope with V's eventual death. Like, I think that Carrie's going to be the best to cope with that. He's 80 something. He's already been through this. He's been around a long time.
And he lost Johnny.
And he lost Johnny, right? And you know, now that you say that, like, he's going to lose V, who was Johnny to him in some ways. But you know what? I think he's the best equipped to handle it. That's my answer. Carrie.
I can hear the cheering from our Carrie community right now that it's neither Panam or Judy. I can literally hear that.
You're welcome.
Okay, one more?
Sure.
One more?
Absolutely.
Tris or Yen. And that's,
that's
gonna be me.
Yin.
Like, that's
that's
gonna be
easy.
me.
That's
Okay.
easy. It's obviously Yin.
So
it's
we agree.
obviously Yin. Anyone who says Tris is just wrong. Just wrong. Don't at me, okay? You know it. You know it in your heart. You know it in your heart. You're wrong. It's obviously Yin.
You heard the man, right?
Come on. Come on. It's not even a question. Not even a question.
Okay, so I guess we're done for today.
We're done.
However,
Oh.
one thing that we can say, please expect some more Cyberpunk streams in the very near future. So keep your eyes open on our social channels, and maybe you will spot it, or maybe you won't miss it. Who knows? But don't miss it. Don't miss it. It will make us upset. Thank you very much for for being here, and to chat with me and with our lovely community. It was a real pleasure.
It was a joy. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
And we have to do it again.
We have to do it
sometimes.
again, but we need to get some air conditioning in.
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you very much, guys, for being today with us, for all the questions. And yeah, see you next time for another round of Gwent. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.